Alex, the Transatlantic Slave Trade, a brutal chapter in human history, its repercussions felt across generations. This study focuses on Ghana, a nation central to this trade, examining how its memory is preserved and interpreted today.
Ghana's coastline is dotted with slave castles, stark reminders of this dark past. These aren't just historical sites, they are public emblems, drawing millions of tourists seeking connection and understanding.
Ghana's coastline, once trading posts for gold and timber, these castles were repurposed to hold enslaved people before their forced journey across the Atlantic. Cape Coast, Elmina, and Christiansborg stand as the main castles with nearly 76 forts along Ghana's coasts.
The Cape Coast Castle, once the headquarters for English traders, now serves as a site of memory. This research delves into YouTube videos of visits to these castles, particularly during the Year of Return in 2019.
The study analyzes how social media shapes public interpretation of the transatlantic slave trade, exploring user reactions and reenactments. The central question: how does social media influence and intensify public understanding of this history? Alex, the study highlights a unique situation in Ghana, where public history isn't a clearly defined field, separate from academic history. It's more interwoven.
Exactly. Finding researchers solely dedicated to studying public representations of the past is difficult. This blending is partly due to historical practices.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Traditional Ghanaian societies primarily relied on oral accounts, drum music, and visual arts to preserve their history. Think of it as a cultural encoding.
So history was less about written records and more about communal storytelling.
Precisely. Elders would share folk tales and songs around fires, passing down knowledge through generations. This oral tradition became a cornerstone of preserving the past, especially within Akan communities. It's a stark contrast to the Western emphasis on written documentation.
So, how exactly does YouTube amplify these public interpretations of the slave trade?
The study zeroes in on videos from the Year of Return in 2019, particularly those showing visits to Cape Coast and Elmina castles. These videos aren't just passive recordings, they're active reenactments.
Reenactments? What does that look like?
Think of it as a digital form of pilgrimage. People visit these sites, film their experiences, and share their emotional reactions. The comments section then becomes a space for collective sense-making.
And what kind of sentiments are expressed in these comments?
The research highlights a fascinating mix: sorrow, anger, but also, surprisingly, optimism, forgiveness, and a call for reconciliation. It's a complex emotional landscape.
It sounds like social media is providing a platform for a global conversation about a very difficult past.
Precisely. It's not just about remembering the horrors, but also about processing the trauma and envisioning a more equitable future. The digital space allows for a democratization of historical interpretation.
Alex, the digital space, particularly platforms like YouTube, becomes a powerful amplifier for public discourse surrounding the transatlantic slave trade. Interpretations found there often express optimism, forgiveness, and a collective hope for a more equitable future.
How do these sentiments translate into educational settings? It suggests a shift towards teaching difficult histories with an emphasis on reconciliation and understanding, rather than solely focusing on the atrocities.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the past while fostering a sense of shared humanity. For example, discussions could explore restorative justice models, focusing on how communities can heal from historical traumas.
This approach could also involve analyzing the socioeconomic impacts using statistical data to show disparities, but framing it within the context of progress and ongoing efforts to address inequality.
Right. It's not about sugarcoating history, but about providing a balanced perspective that empowers students to become agents of positive change. It encourages critical thinking about historical narratives and their impact on contemporary society. Alex, the Cape Coast Castle stands as a stark reminder, serving as the headquarters for English traders, the most active participants in Ghana's slave trade.
Absolutely. These castles, now sites of memory, draw Ghanaians and tourists alike, connecting them to this painful history.
They aren't just relics, they're powerful reminders of a dark period, urging reflection and preventative measures against recurrence.
It's crucial to remember that these sites embody more than just physical structures. They represent the human suffering and resilience of those who were enslaved.
Indeed, their preservation and interpretation are vital for fostering understanding and preventing such atrocities from happening again. This study zeroes in on how YouTube users engage with the memory of the transatlantic slave trade. Specifically, it looks at videos of visits to Cape Coast and Elmina castles during Ghana's Year of Return in 2019.
So they're not just looking at the videos themselves, but also the comments section.
Exactly. The researchers analyze the comments to understand public sentiment, interpretations, and how people are reconstructing this history. The core question is, how does social media shape and amplify public understanding of the transatlantic slave trade?
It's interesting to think about YouTube as a space for historical interpretation. It's not a museum or a textbook, but it's clearly influencing how people learn about and react to this history.
Precisely. And the study suggests that social media offers a powerful platform to deepen public conversations about this difficult past. Alex, initially, these imposing structures served a far different purpose. They were trading posts, bustling with merchants dealing in gold and timber.
So how did they transform into something so sinister?
Over time, the demand for enslaved Africans grew exponentially. The forts were strategically repurposed. Their solid walls and coastal locations made them ideal prisons.
And this is where the door of no return comes in?
Exactly. It was the final exit point for countless Africans. They were crammed onto ships bound for the Americas and the Caribbean. The journey itself was horrific, with mortality rates staggeringly high.
It's hard to imagine the sheer scale of human suffering that passed through those doors.
Indeed. These castles stand as stark reminders of a brutal chapter in human history, a history we must never forget. Alex, the echoes of the transatlantic slave trade resonate powerfully today, particularly for the descendants of those who suffered. Its impact isn't just historical, it's woven into the fabric of identity and experience for millions.
Absolutely, and Ghana's role is undeniable. With its numerous slave ports, the nation stands as a stark reminder of this brutal history. These ports weren't just points of departure, they were epicenters of human suffering.
Think about the sheer scale. Generations were affected, families torn apart, and cultures forever altered. The psychological and economic repercussions continue to shape communities across the African diaspora.
It's crucial to remember that this wasn't just about numbers. Each individual forced into slavery had a name, a story, a life stolen from them. The transgenerational trauma is a legacy we must acknowledge and address.
Alex, following the abolition of the slave trade, approximately 76 forts and castles remained along Ghana's eastern and western coasts. These structures, initially erected for trade in gold and timber, were repurposed as holding places for enslaved people.
This concentration positioned Ghana as a nation with one of the highest densities of slave posts globally. The sheer number underscores the intense activity of the slave trade within the region.
It's a stark reminder of the scale of human suffering. Each fort and castle represents countless stories of forced displacement and unimaginable cruelty.
Indeed, these sites now serve as poignant memorials, urging reflection on this dark chapter and the importance of preventing its recurrence. They stand as silent witnesses to a painful past.
Alex. This study employs a mixed methods approach, primarily focusing on content and sentiment analysis. They analyzed YouTube videos of visits to Cape Coast and Elmina castles during Ghana's Year of Return in 2019.
Right. The researchers didn't just look at the video content, they also examined the comment sections. This is key to understanding public sentiment. Think of it as a digital focus group, capturing immediate reactions and interpretations.
Exactly. By analyzing the text of the comments, they could gauge the overall emotional tone, whether it was positive, negative, or neutral, and identify recurring themes in how people were interpreting the slave trade.
So it's not just about what the videos show, but how the audience reacts and reinterprets that information. This highlights social media's power to amplify and shape public discourse around historical events.
And that's where the implications for teaching come in. Understanding these public interpretations can inform how educators approach difficult histories in the classroom, making the content more relevant and engaging for students.